Northwest Now is supported, in part, by viewers like you. Thank you.
He picked cotton as a child growing up in the Jim Crow South, but Willie Stewart overcame through education, moving north, and finding a new home in Tacoma, where he's now a living legend. We are sitting down with Willie Stewart on this edition of Northwest Now. On my list of regrets about Northwest Now is having missed some of the people we really should have had on this program over the years. Some of it was admittedly just not having those people on our radar until a death jolted our memories. Some of it was bad luck or scheduling problems. Some of it is that there are just so many opportunities to get people on. And that's why we've got Willie Stewart on tonight, a Tacoma legend who just turned 90 at the end of last year. Stewart was a teacher, administrator, and board member for 40 years in the Tacoma public school system. He became a colonel in the Army Reserves and has served extensively with the Boys and Girls Club, Kiwanis, the Housing Authority, and the Tacoma Athletic Commission. Willie, thanks so much for coming to Northwest Now. Great to have you in studio. I think congratulations are in place, or the right thing to do here. You were born on Christmas Day and you just turned 90 years old. That's so what are your thoughts about being 90?
Well, first of all, to me it's a real miracle because I had 7 brothers, 6 brothers, I'm the 7th one, and not a single one lived beyond 85.
Okay.
So I'm very fortunate. And my father had a short lifespan of 55, my mother 66. However, I had an older sister who lived to 95 and another one who is living now who is 94. Then I have a baby sister 85. So we have a mixture of longevity there.
You were one of what, 10 kids, right?
One of 11.
11 kids.
I'm number 10.
Okay.
So I'm the miracle. My mother was 38 when I was born.
Wow. Wow. What was it like having 10 brothers and sisters? Do you feel like you got shorted on Christmas presents because you were born on Christmas Day?
In many ways, yes. But the uniqueness of this, because I'm number 10 down the line, the older brothers had left the house because of the World War II.
Okay.
So I had 4 brothers who were active in World War II, one who was drafted, but because of his fat people rejected, so I was never at home with more than 2 brothers and 2 sisters. But even at that, when it came to Christmas time, I felt left out because I got the same number of gifts as they did.
Right, birthday and Christmas.
Christmas, right. And today, it doesn't bother me. I'm just happy to be alive.
Right, that's the Christmas present.
That's right.
Having another Christmas.
That's right.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about what was life like in Columbus, Texas. It was the South. Talk a little bit about that.
Let me address it in a couple of categories. Mm-hmm. One, in the education system. A total separation of the black students from the other students. Mm-hmm. Separate building, separate facilities, separate basketball court, separate gymnasium, no swimming pool, no cafeteria that was present for other schools. Also, because many of the students were related to the farm work, some of our students didn't get, even though school would be from the 1st of September until May, many of our students couldn't get started till late October because their parents were involved in farm work and they had to pick cotton in West Texas.
Okay.
And so consequently, many of the students had to repeat their classes or they received an inferior education because work was essential for the families. Also, because of total separation, you didn't get a chance to really know the community other than a work relationship, not a living situation.
You worked in agriculture too, right?
Right.
Talk a little bit about that. What'd you do?
In my work, first of all, I was seasonal. I picked pecans in the fall, first norther, because they didn't have the machines to whip the trees. During the summer months, heavily of all of July and up until the end of August, I was in the cotton field picking cotton. I would lose a few days in May to join my father to go thin the cotton that was developing, so it wouldn't be an overabundance of plants in one location. So I did.
Here's a question I want to ask you about young people. Thinking of you picking cotton, of course, brings up a lot of ideas about the Jim Crow South and the 1800s and problems. By the same token, there was a lot of kids who grew up here picking bulbs in the Puyallup Valley and berries and all those things. And that's the story of a lot of people's youth, having a job, getting paid, and doing some ag work. How do you balance those two ideas? Was there some positive in that?
Yes, I think that in terms of the work, it would be the same. But I think in terms of the students didn't get denied an opportunity for education because their parents had enough resources so they wouldn't miss school.
Yeah.
But in terms of the hard work and the labor, the strawberry fields and all that, from that concept, yes. However, the pay would probably be quite different.
Oh, yeah.
in terms of that for the long labor, say. And also, let's take a cotton picking experience in the South. You're talking about picking cotton with the temperature around in the 90s.
Yeah.
And you have to go for 8 to 10 hours in a day. And if you stand up, your back wears you down. If you get on your knees, it's tough because the black soil is now very hot.
Yeah.
So it was labor intensive, but different type.
So talk a little bit about your evolution. You were living in Jim Crow South, your brothers and sisters, your family's down there. When did it dawn on you, or when did you say to yourself, can you remember a time when you said to yourself, you know something, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of the South. I need a change. How did that come about, and what was your thought process?
I would say the process really started in my junior year in high school when I had this outstanding shop teacher who always stressed to us, I want you to work hard, gain as much knowledge as you can, because someday you will be living in a different world. And that different world is that you will not be in an all-black world. You'll be in a total integrated world. Mm-hmm. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I know it will. And it's better to be prepared to deal with it than not. Out of that, I was the first one then, with the help of an older sister and her husband, to go to college. But it encouraged me to go to college. I was washing dishes my senior year in high school, and the owner of that place, Mrs. Bussman, felt that I was a good worker, and she said, Willie, some great things can happen to you because you have great potential. So that was an inspiration.
So you really saw your path as education.
Right.
That was going to be your path out of the South and out of manual labor and into this new world that some of your key teachers were telling you was coming.
But education in terms of a career.
Yeah.
Because all I ever saw as professional blacks were teachers, ministers, undertakers. Mm-hmm. Never saw the other. So I became attached to men in the coaching ranks, which directed me to education. And then upon getting in college and graduating, I taught in an all-black situation, but what really changed me was that I was drafted by the United States Army. That brought me to Fort Lewis, Washington.
Okay.
It was out of that experience that opened the avenue, and my mother said to me in 1960, don't come home because you feel that you can teach any student anywhere. They're not retaining the black teachers. So since you're close to the president, where she thought Washington was, you might get a job.
Yeah.
And so I ended up here. But I want to say this, that after I received here, I had an unusual support system from persons who did not look like me. The first one was a gentleman named Fred Heaney, who was my first principal, who came to my classroom and critiqued me and said, I want you to do this, and you'll be better, and you do this. I was obligated to be in the Army Reserves for at least 2 years, and my commander was the late Charles P. Larson, who was a pathologist. He took a liking to me and encouraged me. And so it was all that support system. I started feeling I could be like anyone else. So it was others who enabled me. The potential was there, but I want a person to know that it wasn't Willie Stewart alone who did it.
So here comes Willie Stewart. He's got an education now. He's been in the Army. He's matriculating. He finds himself in Tacoma. And you end up in the Tacoma Public Schools, where you were a seed that was planted and turned into quite the tree. Talk about your years in the Tacoma Public Schools.
Yeah, first of all, my first 6 years at Galt Junior High School, located in East Tacoma, and I still remember to this day during planning periods of students going one class to the other, some of the black boys would stop by and rub my hand. I want to make sure you haven't been painted because I had never seen a black male teacher.
So unusual to have
Right. And so that gave me a strong commitment and attachment to East Side Tacoma. And I rejected an opportunity to follow my good friend Fred Heenan to Northeast Tacoma. And out of that, I had a good relationship with staff. The superintendent was impressed with me. After 6 years, I was appointed to be assistant principal at Galt. After 3 years, I was assistant principal at Lincoln for 1 year, and then appointed in 1970. I served for 8 years there, and then later 18 years as assistant superintendent for personnel.
How was being a principal, the first black principal there? How were you accepted? Was that difficult at all? Were you welcomed with open arms? How do you?
I want to say that I was well received, and I think part of the reason is I had a chance to have my feet wet as a teacher, an opportunity to learn the community. So I kind of took a principalship with a group of persons who knew me. Also at that time, with the change in population of the students and all, the staff was interested in having someone like me so the students could have someone they could see. And they felt because of my competency and my skills that I would be a person that could relate to both communities.
So you have this long career with Tacoma Public Schools, end up all the way up in the administration.
Right.
And then as part of the celebration of that long career, along comes the naming of the Willie Stewart Academy. Talk a little bit about what the Academy is and how it fits into the Tacoma Public Schools.
Okay. First of all, I want to say this. The first important thing about it is that it's dealing with students who have had a challenging time in the comprehensive high school. Mm-hmm. They're usually students who are 17 years, you have to be at least 17 years of age, 14 credits short of graduation.
So you're right on the edge. Okay.
You have to make application to the school. You have to make a commitment that you're willing to take one class at a time until such time you can take two. And also, you will have to come on a regular basis. But since these students have not had all this support before, that school then has provided social workers, food services, shelter and all, to enhance their opportunities to be successful. And then more importantly, a staff group that's there who see the students where they are. They're not that concerned whether the kids are going to go to Harvard, Stanford, University of Washington. They want them to get that diploma. They want them to feel successful. And why was my name selected? Because I had a history of not letting students drop out of school.
Yeah.
I always want to involve the parents, I want to involve the administration, and I always looking for opportunities for them. And so when Greg Oxenagel, who was the principal of that, it was Region 4 before it was renamed Willie Stewart Academy, he had a committee that came together and surfaced my name as the person for it. And I want to say that it has an outstanding staff, but what's more important about it is that when the students have completed their credits, they're celebrated. Most comprehensive schools, you have one graduation ceremony a year. Mm-hmm. At this institution, you can have as many as 3 in a year. More the last couple of years, it's just been 2. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, we graduated 11 students.
Nice.
Rather than let them wait.
Yeah.
Until June.
Once they hit their credits so they can get rolling.
Get rolling.
Yeah.
But an interesting testimony out of this was 2 years ago. We had a person living who was from Africa, living with the grandparents here, and his father was invited to his graduation, but he came 2 weeks early. And for was so creative, since the young man had completed his credit, the principal, Renee Fromley, contacted me and said, we're going to have a graduation ceremony for one. We went through the whole ceremony, the cap and gown, and the process. But I'm using that as an example that even though the students are there, the staff is constantly giving them a support system, doing things to encourage them to be successful.
Talk a little bit about your involvement in the community, because in addition to the community piece that came along with your profession in the public schools, First Baptist Church, now Urban Grace Church, Boys and Girls Clubs of Puget Sound, extensive involvement there, Alpha Phi Alpha, United Way, Housing Authority, Kiwanis, the Tacoma Athletic Commission that you've been involved with for 51 years. You've been the Tacoma Peace Prize, the Peace Prize Board, and were the 2019 Peace Laureate, cited for being a calming influence, which I think you certainly are. Talk a little bit about that community piece. Why have you invested so much in it, and what do you think your legacy is in this community?
I think I want to give credit to the late Dr. Angelo Giardroni, as superintendent, who encouraged the administrators to go beyond your building, get into community. And my first introduction was to the Kiwanis Club by one of his staff members, Eugene Brackenridge, supported by the late Sandy Mazzei, who just died a couple of weeks ago. And it was one that's emphasizing helping children. And because that started, then I had a great compassion for sports, because I've seen sports change lives of persons. I became involved with the Tacoma Athletic Commission. And that was an opportunity I still do today, where we can celebrate the successes of these young men and young women. I want to go a step beyond that. As a faith-based person, what are we doing beyond just going to church each Sunday or doing this? So a group of us in 1995 felt that it was important to show some love and compassion for this community. So we came up with the idea of having a community breakfast every Sunday morning. We selected First Baptist Church, which is now Urban Grace, which I've been a part of since 1963 at the church. So in 1995, we started this. We had a saint in the church who had died, who left us the first $5,000 to start the program. And when that ended, the person gave us another $10,000. Then after that, we went to local members. We went to different foundations that supported. Because of the cost of food, and then being a retired military person with the availability to the military installation, I eased the pain by being able to use that facility at a reduced price for that. But the thing is, we were able to get people who were not even associated with the church, who saw the need for this, to come in. And that inspired me. And that's why I was with the community breakfast. Now, I was requested by one of the former mayors to become a part of the Tacoma Housing Authority. Mm-hmm. And that opened my eyes to a level of Tacoma I never recognized. I knew about Salishan, I knew about the needs, but being in a decision making and hearing things coming, it just reinforced that without a comfortable bed, without a warm house, you cannot be successful in school. And that's what led me to that.
Do you worry about the younger generation not being joiners, not getting involved in community organizations, stepping away, doing their own thing on their computers or on their phones?
Well, but I don't hold them exclusively. I'm concerned about that. But I'm not so sure if they're totally responsible for that. Mm-hmm. Because I look back and I ask the question, did we, as we were in those positions, did we encourage a young person to join with us? Did we stay in a position so long that they felt that it has to be for a person who's a senior citizen rather than a young person? But because we have not had the system to get the young persons involved, I'm gravely concerned. For example, when I first started Kiwanis, we had over 350 members.
Yep.
Now we're down to 45.
Yep.
When I first joined the Tacoma Athletic Commission, we had well over 200 persons. Now we're just a little over 100. So it's there as a challenge, and how we deal with it, I'm not sure. But yes, I am gravely concerned. Yeah. And anyone listening to this, I want to say, get involved. We need you. The community needs you. That's the ultimate reason why I still support. I go to the Key Club. I go to the Builders Club, so young people can see me. Even at my age of 90, I feel that as long as I have breath, I'm going to keep pushing for that.
I want to talk to you, too, about race relations. You know, I thought things were really going in a good direction for a long time. Now I'm not so convinced of that, Willie. What's your view on the trend of race relations when you look across the arc of your life, from the Jim Crow South to the civil rights era to where we are now? Are you encouraged, discouraged? How do you look at it?
I think that there are challenges we have. I don't want to go back to the Jim Crow thing exclusively, but there are a lot of elements of that in our society right now. A lot of it is the misinterpretation and misunderstanding of words, what affirmative action is, what equity is, what is the good old boy system, what is nepotism, and all these things will surface. So you see elements of it, and it's just not, it's across the board. And when someone will say at a high position that you only have that position because of affirmative action, you never make generalizations. What we're failing to do is look at each person as a person and evaluate them, looking at the content of the character, look at their level of performance. That's what we've taken a back step on that to some degree.
So has DEI helped or hurt? Has it made people more resentful, or has it driven them apart, or has it brought people together?
It has not brought people together, but it's making us talk more now, because we did take some steps back. Yeah, and it's how we approach it. See, when you make a generalization that every position is DEI, then you get that feeling. So what's important is the leadership of the country.
Or there's two types of people, oppressors and the oppressed. That's it.
That's it.
It's not who those people are.
That's right. And it's in every phase of life.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, when you have experienced something that's positive, you don't want it to go back. For example, Mr. Rooney, who's the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, said to all the billionaire owners, it's time for us, we have 7% of our participants African American, we need some African American leadership as coaches. So at the end of each year, when there are 10 vacancies this year, 6 have been filled and not a single one has been of color, then there's a question mark, are we stepping back? Are we going forward? So what the decision will be made on what the next 4 will be like.
The arc of history, if you look at it, seems to show things gradually improving. It's slow, it's been painful,
right.
It's over a long period of time.
Yeah. Also, it's about a section of the country. And I'll say this, I'm very pleased with the state of Washington. There are some challenges we have here.
Yeah.
But they're not as great as some other places I know where I have family, say.
So you don't think we're doomed forever with racism and problems? You think, what do you see the future, 90 years from now, how do you see things?
I think 90 years from now, we'll hear very little about the pigmentation of the skin. We will be so immersed because the world is coming together with communications and movement. But right now, I think there's a feeling of a threat because the population is changing so quickly. Mm-hmm. And that's why there's one group is having a large number of children, another group not. So they were what the majority might look like. And we have to look at it beyond the pigmentation of the skin, but the kind of leadership and all.
And the content of the character, which
That's
is,
right,
of course, Martin Luther King's famous.
And in spite of all of our challenges, I don't know of any place that's better, but we shouldn't sit back because other places are not as good.
Right.
We can always make it better.
That's not a stop sign, that's a go sign, right?
So, as long as we have the homelessness the way we have, as long as we have the housing challenges, we still haven't arrived. And those things have to be attacked independent of race.
So Willie, you're 90, and I hope you have many good years in front of you. With that said, how do you hope people interpret your legacy? When people think about Willie Stewart, what would you like them to have in their minds?
First of all, there was a gentleman whose concern was concerned about others above himself. That's one thing. Secondly, a person who is willing to volunteer, a person who is willing to share his resources with a person who is a good listener, a person who is willing to be a part of a team, a person who emphasizes the positive in things rather than the negative. I would like for them to think in terms of a person who just didn't talk it, but one who walked it. A person who can reach out when there's an opportunity. He can talk to the senior citizens, he can talk to the middle-aged group, he can talk to the teenagers, and he can talk to the children. And I practiced that today. Upon the celebration of my 90th birthday celebration, the 2 persons at the door receiving people were elementary school students, with also a senior citizen present. I try to do everything to involve all age groups. I put emphasis, and thanks to Carl Anderson, who got me involved with community programs. One of the things I didn't talk about, that at the end of each year, there's a Willie Stewart Community Scholarship that's given to seniors who have been certified by agencies for so much volunteerism. It started 20 years ago under the leadership of Carl with the golf tournament. This past May of 2025, we gave out 14 scholarships, $5,000 each. That's $70,000. And these were students who have volunteered at the hospital and other agencies. That's what I want to be known for, a person who's been an aggressive person to get others to get involved and to be volunteered and not want to have your name mentioned all the time.
Willie, great conversation. I think your name is going to be mentioned all the time for a long time to come. And I sure appreciate you coming to Northwest Now and continue to be one of the real treasures here in the South Sound. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Whenever I speak with somebody like Willie Stewart, I'm always asking myself, how will we ever be able to replace the community-minded servant leaders we're losing? The bottom line is we can't. Our only hope lies in growing a new generation of people who can acknowledge America's problems while simultaneously loving it, and who are willing to dedicate themselves to constructively improving it. My thanks and my best wishes to Willie Stewart and the broader community of peace he represents here in Tacoma. I hope this program got you thinking and talking. You can find this program on the web at kbtc.org, stream it through the PBS app, or listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's going to do it for this edition of Northwest Now. Until next time, I'm Tom Layson. Thanks for watching.